online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Let's have a kiki.
I want to have a kiki.
Lock the doors. Let's have a kiki.
Number one, that's not the song that we picked, but we're just going to go with that. That's fine. You can have that song. And I just fulfilled my SNL fantasy of rolling into like the weekend update desk. Did we know we were talking about? Hi. Welcome everybody
the
to.
The question is, since we didn't pick out this video, why does Steve know about this video?
That is a good question, Steven. Mr.
I choose
Engineer.
to believe that Steve subscribes to Willem's YouTube channel.
It's okay with, that's fine.
I do subscribe to Willem's YouTube
channel. I
channel.
don't subscribe to anything. I feel like I'm
But you should subscribe to
charges $5.99.
Hello, everybody.
Per minute.
Welcome to another episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, the AfterBuzz TV edition. I'm your host, Kenny Harrison. Oh, that was an abrupt cut to silence. Thanks.
We are gonna serve.
Yeah, you can let it run. Just let it run a little bit. You can find me at Kenny C. Harrison on Twitter. Joining me tonight is the lovely...
Oh, I thought you were talking about Cam.
No,
At 123 Jackie_B. Or
no offense,
Jackie
Cameron.
B.
Cameron, you're a very handsome, attractive person. What's your name?
Cameron Marston.
And
Tamakava 777.
And we're joined tonight with Steven.
Namia.
Hey!
Hi, Steven. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about because
we gotta pack it in.
It's Tuesday. We didn't talk about if you're just joining us, we used to be on Mondays. Now we're on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So now we get to we can discuss last night's episode of Drag Race, including Untucked that aired this morning. But since we didn't talk about last week's Untucked, let's just hit on that real quick. It was
so boring.
Yeah, it was episode 7. It was the Snatch Game Untucked, and basically it was nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing really stood out for me. I mean, Pearl almost ate it on the way out, leaving the stage. That was funny, but aside from that, nothing really happened.
I only wrote skinny girls versus big girls fight, which is like a reoccurring fight that always happens on AfterBuzz on Drag Race.
It happens on AfterBuzz as well. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that Max was bummed and that she thought that she was going to have a better, I guess, like position.
Right.
I didn't think she was going to be in the bottom.
Right.
She was unprepared.
I also found it interesting that when it was just Pearl and Violet sitting alone, that they joked about somebody coming back, and then at the end of last week's episode, RuPaul announced that somebody was coming back.
Yeah.
So. That's the only thing I got from last week.
I feel like it's tradition to bring at least one queen back, though.
I did watch some of the extra bonus stuff from Logo, and I realized, because we talked about Katya, and in all honesty, if they hadn't edited it, I would have picked Katya as the winner. Her stuff that was cut out from Snatch Game
show
was super funny.
Which is unfortunate,
but it was just too racy. I think that's why.
I think that because we only see a certain amount. I think I mentioned I think Snatch Game episode should be an hour and a half, so we can see the entire. I would like to see the entire thing. I mean, uncut.
I just don't know if they
bigger, longer, and uncut.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I feel like because they're trying to create a narrative. It's like they wanted to create the Kennedy gets redemption for doing a boy drag storyline, and so Katya's, whether or not her impression was good, I guess it wasn't relevant to their needs. So even if they did make a longer episode, I don't know if they'd show it.
Right. Oh wow.
It's like when they cut all of Alan Rickman's scenes out of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. You put him back in, it makes him really cool, and you don't care about Kevin Costner.
Okay, that was a long,
It's
old
a
reference.
long, old diatribe.
That's from like, what, 1991, 92?
Still bitter about it.
Wow. Well, you just be better over there. Well, you brought up Kennedy, and I want to just kind of segue into last night's episode because that was pretty much untalked. Kennedy has always been in Jayden's corner. And she's always been kind of like giving her advice or like boosting her, I was going to say adrenaline.
Morale.
Morale, yeah.
Maybe
this is why we
adrenaline,
have
too.
co-hosts. For when my head goes numb.
My adrenaline's low.
I feel like this episode, she kind of didn't do her right by... Okay, so the name of the episode was Conjoined Queens, and basically... I have to admit, and I'm very proud of myself because 2 weeks ago in predictions, I was the one that said that they're going to bring back the old queens to help out with the challenge. I wasn't 100% correct, but that happened.
I'm glad it happened that way, but I still think it was kind of weird that everybody seemed to know that Trixie was coming back, so somebody must have squealed along the way.
Well, I think that... If you look
out
at
of
the
all those queens, who would you want to come back?
But yeah, that's what I think. That was the thing. That out of those 7, I think a lot of them were very Trixie. They wanted Trixie to come back, and I thought Max would have been a second choice. But so it just so happens that she brought back all 7 of the queens. What do you guys think about that?
This is now Tony Moore is gonna be whenever he's watching this is gonna be so happy that I'm saying this, but. This episode, I had to do my old thing and watch Untucked first. And so I knew what was happening, who was going home, etc. And I actually think I missed out on... I do like that there were certain surprises about who was going home. We've had some big surprises this season for people going home. And I think I kind of missed out on that. I missed out on the big surprise of them all coming in because when they brought Trixie in, I feel like I would have been like, oh my gosh, Trixie's back. And then when I saw the other queens come in, I would be like, oh, hell no.
What possessed you to, well, aside from the fact that we changed our taping, our live show, why did you go back to that old formula? When you knew it was going to be a surprise.
It was because the way we tape here is I watched Untucked and then we don't have enough time to watch Untucked here, and it's not taped here.
So it was a logistical.
It's not recorded here. It's a logistical thing.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So the mini challenge was Orange is the New Black. It was a rip off that, and again, this is one of those things where I don't know who. Yeah, who.
I do not think Kennedy won that.
I know my favorite.
Make any sense
my
to me.
favorite again was Katya. I thought she was the funniest. She had the little mask. She, her little bit. And I have a feeling that these little blurbs that Ru is reading is something that they created. Mm-hmm. Like, I think they're asked to, what is your prison name? Blah, blah, blah. So, and I think hers was the funniest by far.
I think Katya was hilarious. I liked Pearl because I felt like Pearl actually looked to me like a character who could be on Orange is the New Black. I thought Ginger's was really funny. She had like a card tied into her.
She had the Queen of Spades tied in.
I love those little details, and I just felt like Kennedy. There were so many other queens who had like interesting looks and really funny things, and for me, like Kennedy's just wasn't.
I even thought Jayden was pretty funny. Hers was the last one.
Yeah, with the smeared makeup.
So again, I who knows how Ru determined the winner? It's not. She doesn't really give an explanation on who or how the winner shows them.
Yeah.
Do you guys? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Well, again, I think, like I said, now that I realize there's so much more that's spliced out and we don't get to see. I'm sure that lends to it because I actually didn't think Kennedy was that bad. I like the ashy knee thing. I like the side ponytail because I'm serious. That's
you
reality.
liked her 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah. That's a queen in prison. Serious.
Well,
ashy knees.
Now
showing.
But now
reappropriated outfit.
As the winner of this of the mini challenge, she got the advantage of choosing. I mean, after I was the same when I watched the episode the first time, and Trixie was the first one to come out. I was like, I'm not surprised.
Right.
But when that door swung open and like Tempest came through and like
when Jasmine came through, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
See, I missed that moment. I wanted to have that moment.
My God.
But I will say, I've always said that like I would like queens to go home maybe in like the second episode because I felt like I want to get to know them better. And in this episode, I really did feel like I got to know a lot of those missing queens better. And you know what? It's not even like a lot of people harp on us because we're like, this person should go home and that person should go home. There are two different things happening. There are queens I actually really like Jiggly Cayente, that should not have won RuPaul's Drag Race, but are entertaining to watch.
Yes.
So it's like, you can say, I want these queens to go home because they don't deserve to win the competition, but I would still watch them do whatever.
Right, and I have to agree with you on that. I think to a certain extent that the producers try to milk some of those Jiggly Calientes and what was the Asian? Alyssa Edwards.
Oh,
you know they're not
the
going to.
Asian was
Gia Gunn. You know, I mean, she didn't go home right away, but they try to milk that for entertainment purposes. And one of my things for this season, I don't think. Okay, this is my personal opinion. I don't think that the queens are as talented as they used to be in the past. However, this show is still entertaining, and I think it lends itself from some of the personalities they have on the show.
I think I understand what you mean. I think looking back at some of the queens that we've had before, their resumes were like full, right? Like Raja, Chanel, Chad. Even they had like extensive resumes that weren't just pageants.
Yeah.
Well, also, you know what's interesting? There was an article that I tweeted recently at 123Jackie_B. That said, is the problem the way people are feeling about this season? Is it the way that the producers are portraying the queens, or is it actually the queens themselves? Because Jasmine was a lot of fun in this episode, and she was portrayed as such a bummer in the episode she left in.
But in Untucked, I have to say that in Untucked she was very cunty and Untucked, and I was kind of a little bit turned off by her, the way that she.
Which is interesting because we feel the same way, and she watched Untucked first, but she still felt Jasmine was entertaining in the right. She wasn't smeared by that.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Jackie, that is so interesting.
But I see what you're saying. I feel I think we've mentioned it before. If you're not giving them that exactly, they're not going to cut it. But if you're giving them, which Max kind of we were tweeted one of Max's her kind of explanation as to what actually really happened in the Snatch game runway where.
Jackie called it.
Yeah, no, I called it.
I'm sorry. Whoa.
Hey, I did too.
No, but I called it first.
Okay.
There's ownership issues.
Okay.
I said that for all we know, and you can go back and watch the tape. Go back and watch last episode. I said that for all we know, that she was probably sitting on the floor. They had cut to break. People were at craft service, and she was singing. So. She tweeted that, it's interesting how, Ru asked her to sing, and probably because she didn't sing this song that Ru wanted her to sing. Maybe that's why they gave her that bad cut.
Girl.
Who knows? Anyway, so this goes back to the whole producers. I think, producers and editors.
Speaking of, so do you think Kennedy actually picked those people the way she did, or was that a lineup created by the producers?
Steven's like, I feel like
Steven tells us how to act.
No, I feel like they're lined up a certain way. They were lined up a certain way, and she went down the line. And I think that in Untucked, she tried to be fair with her explanation, but I feel as though that it was okay.
I believe that explanation.
What I want to say is that if I'm in a competition, if I'm Kennedy,
sabotage.
Yes, I am not putting Trixie and Pearl together. Yes, I would have picked Jasmine Masters as my partner. That only makes sense. But I would not have tried to pair people who because Miss Fame and Candy Ho looked. Miss Fame made her look like they look like twins, and so did and it just was so that I think it just so happened that Tempest and Jaden were the last ones picked. You know what I mean? But I feel as though I think there was some manipulation.
Neither one, Jaden nor Tempest, could have been paired with anybody to look similar. So I think that was the end of it.
I think for Tempest, because Violet's a tall girl, and so is Pearl.
Too skinny.
I think it would have worked a little bit better. A little bit better than, come on, that was like polar opposites. And I feel like, I said it earlier. I think for Kennedy to be, Team Jaden, always want to have her back, and I think she really like kind of not threw her under the bus, but
I
don't think she did her any favors.
I don't either. I feel like they do. Like, I do feel like she picked out the queens because she seemed to have a pretty decent explanation for it. But at the same time, Jaden did call her out, being like, or it was either Jaden or Tempest saying, well, what was your idea with us?
Tempest did.
Yeah, because it does.
Well,
it seems like the last two crayons in the box.
Since we're already meshing Untucked, and I think the way she went about doing it, I think it was very passive aggressive, and I'm talking about Tempest. She was like, so how did you come up with your pairings? And she waited until she got.
Oh, she's not done yet.
Yeah. So but again, Kennedy was very political when she said, "This is how I do it. I want it to be fair and blah blah blah." I can appreciate that.
If I win, I want to have won.
And I appreciate that, and that kind of lends that whole Bianca Del Rio, where I will put you together, but I'm still going to win the competition, and I'm all for that. But I do want it. I would like it to be more cutthroat a little bit. I think
a real competition.
Yeah. I think it was a little too easy. So, while we're on the subject of the pairings, let's go down the list. Okay. So we had Kennedy and Jasmine, and their idea was to do pageant.
No, their idea was the Cotton Club.
Okay, no.
Ella Fitzgerald.
No.
Kennedy's really long ass explanation. Again.
No. I think it was pageant. They were like, okay, we're gonna do a cute little dress, and they had the matching one side, the side. And I think she came up with that on the spot. Yeah, and because if that was the case, that didn't come across at all. And I actually like that idea on the fly.
I like the pageant idea on the fly with the sash and they should have just completely went for it. But
right.
I'm kind of tired of hearing everybody say, "I just wanted more." I want more.
Because they can't. It's
Are we talking judges?
Everybody,
yeah. It feels like the judges can't actually define what they want.
You gotta push it further.
It's like how can you help them if you don't want to define what you want? Yeah. But I did in that particular outfit. I actually really liked their dresses. I liked the way they walked. I think the only thing that threw me off was the way they were conjoined, where it was like it was not very creative. It was just like literally like a tube down the side.
And they showed skin at the hip. They should have been completely covered.
It seemed really awkward. It's like if you're gonna be co-joined that way, don't make it in such a boring way.
But kudos for making their outfit. I mean, they literally sewed that.
Yeah, which together. I got my sewing challenge. I'm so happy for that.
Yes.
Sewing challenge finally. So who's next? Episode 8. I'm running the show, okay? You just settle down over there and let me have my accolades for getting my sewing challenge. So, the next group was Pearl and Trixie. I have to admit, this was...
They had the best backstory.
Best backstory.
To be honest.
They executed it really well, and I have to agree with Ross and disagree with Michelle, and that Trixie didn't outdo Pearl on the runway. I think Pearl's motivation, actually, I think Trixie's motivation was from Pearl. If you I watched it. I watch it a couple of times, and it's like Pearl was kind of leading them down the runway. So, and it was like. They were playing off of each other, but I think Pearl was definitely in the driver's seat.
Well, Pearl came up with the idea.
Yeah.
They worked together as a pair, and I think it worked well.
As far as Trixie looking like Pearl, I think they both was like halfway. Yeah. Like half of it was Pearl, and then the other half was Trixie, and I think it meshed well. I personally don't think they won. Per se,
I don't think they won either, and
who do you think?
Katya.
I think Katya won, and here was the thing: I think it was all because it's like RuPaul does not want to bring Kasha back. Trixie is a fan favorite; like people were outraged when she left.
But let's be honest: the show has been taped months ago, so there's no way of knowing that Trixie was a fan favorite.
Maybe Trixie was a Ru favorite, though.
That could be.
It's like just bringing her back as like a big redemption storyline. Because I could see, remember, you know how like all of the queens who come back never make it to the top 3.
Right.
They never
you can
do.
see Trixie going farther.
I can see Trixie being in the top 3.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, we'll get to that because I feel like this episode was kind of crappy. I mean, okay, backing up, when I first started watching this episode,
you're excited.
I actually thought it was just we're gonna bring one person back. And then when I realized they brought all 7 back, okay, the winning couple, that person gets to stay, and then the eliminated girls go home. I didn't realize that if you lost, because I kept seeing, because when Ginger Minge was going on about,
I thought the same
Sasha
thing.
did, I was
Why
like,
are they worried?
Yeah, why don't you just throw the challenge so you don't have to worry about her coming back? And then I realized, oh wait, so if they lose in the bottom, yeah. So in theory, one person leaves and then another person comes back, so we're still stuck at 7. So
Sorry, sis, that was with you.
yeah, that was my sidebar.
Yes, I had forgot Sasha Bell existed until this episode. I was like, oh yeah.
You forgot what?
I forgot Sasha Bell was like one of the drag queens. I was like, oh yeah.
I did that with Tempest when she walked in. I was like, oh, I forgot about her. But they were the first 2 to go. So.
I remember Tempest because I remember her story about being fat.
Maybe that's why Kennedy put her
and her suit was like super saggy and blah blah blah.
Put her and Jaden, like the former fat girl with the current fat girl. Maybe that's it.
Well, she said bone structure, but I want to talk about Ginger.
So, you want to?
When you're ready.
Well, let's gonna go to let's do it.
Okay.
What about Ginger? Here we go.
No, I mean, again, it's she's true to form. And I think it was interesting when she was talking with Sasha, sitting down, and she was like, "Girl, I'm so glad you're back. If there was any of the girls that I wanted to work with, it would be you." But then again, and shout out Confessional Thug, saying things in the confessional, but not being true and honest.
Well, she did that quite a bit this episode.
And again, but more than any other contestant, unfortunately. And that's my thing. Is like, you're a strong girl. You have good comedy. You can rip back. But why can't you just tell somebody straight? She was walking around. She's walking around talking to everybody. Can I get a cut, please? I mean, just whip her into shape. I mean, your position on the show is at stake.
Yeah.
We had a fan point out, Tony Matthews, that they must film the confessionals on the day they're leaving, because when you see them leave, that's the same outfit they're wearing in all the confessionals.
I tend to believe that they.
I can see that.
My theory. I think they tape the confessionals after every single episode has been cut, right before they go to like airing the show, maybe 2 months. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, the show usually begins in January or February. They kept pushing it off, putting it off until March, and I remember we were trying to get a start date, and Logo would not release a start date, and so I tend to believe that. This could go to how Trixie came back. I tend to believe that something happened and they had to reshoot a lot of shit. So, it could be that they reshot like confessionals, they redid episodes, and whatever the case may be. But I tend to believe that the show is cut a certain way, and then they bring the girls back.
But you don't. I mean, they're wearing the outfits they're leaving in the confessionals.
Do they really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I noticed that because I started watching.
Not those confessions. I mean, like when there's like when Ginger Minge say, "Oh, girl, I'm glad you're my partner," and then they cut to her and say, "No, that's a fucking lie." They're wearing the same clothes in those in those sides, not in the actual confessionals.
I'm sure there's multiple streams of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I get it.
Because I mean, then her point was like, maybe they're like it's easy to, I guess, be one way when you're filming the show, and then like once you're going home or once that like this episode is over or whatever, be a completely different way.
Right.
I mean, she got the video from her boyfriend and said she was being a bitch. Like, why not learn from that? Just saying.
But that only lasted one episode.
Exactly. Because my thing is, like, honestly, did you think Sasha believed her? Like, you really wanted me out of all 7 of us that came back?
Yeah.
Sasha never looked better, I will say. When I went and looked up the pictures of who Sasha was, because I was confused as to why she was on the show. Who is this queen? What? You were here? And then I looked at the pictures and I was like, oh yeah, she looked terrible. But in this episode, she actually looked really good. This is the best she
she didn't.
looked.
I mean, I didn't like the outfit that they chose.
But Ginger painted her too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which
that outfit was tacky.
I think I even give Jaden Dior credit for painting Tempest.
Yeah, Tempest looks
because
great.
they're total different. We saw this last season with Jocelyn. I love her. And
I don't remember
not the gremlin, but I'm just saying. Yeah. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Ginger, why?
We're talking about painting their faces, and I think the non-eliminated girls did a really excellent job making the eliminated girls look just like them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which brings me to Fame and Candy Ho. I mean, I understand why the concept didn't work for the judges.
I totally agree because I didn't know what they were doing at first until they walked on stage. I was like, "Oh, why would you do that?"
Yeah.
See, for
It's not
me,
even a different season.
Yeah.
for me, I like Michelle's argument was like, "Oh, this was done before on Drag Race," but I'm like, it's never been done as a co-joined twin. So it's like their surgery, there was like blood in between them. So I'm like, I get this idea that they're having trouble like doing surgery to remove them from each other, so they're doing plastic surgery elsewhere. I was like, I really feel like there's a narrative there that was well thought out to the point, and they looked good. So it's like, okay, why are you being clocked so much for that?
I think they ruined it by doing the whole head wrap like
Yeah.
Pearl did.
Yeah.
If they didn't do that, maybe you could get away with it.
I just think I didn't like the outfit at all, and I tend to agree with Michelle on this particular instance. But I agree with you to a certain extent. I think the way I can see where they were going with it. Unlike everyone else that actually explained their story, they didn't get a chance to explain it. And you know, we all know that Miss Fame has got this. Her head is not. Well, she hadn't had any complaints this episode, but she's not there all 100%.
She's fighting chickens.
And I have to admit I've grown to like her because I didn't like her in the beginning, but I've grown to like her, and I'm moving right along. I've grown to like Violet in this episode. I actually thought she turned a corner for me, and I didn't think that would happen. I'm getting a little teary-eyed because
she smells like onion.
You think she turned a corner because she was not featured in this episode and therefore could not be pegged to be a BITCH?
I think she got a. You mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. She got a good, like Ginger got a good edit. That one episode, I think she got a good edit. You know, because there were moments where she was talking to Miss Kasha, and Kasha was like, anybody who's grown in the short amount of time has been you, and I can see that a little bit, and it was kind of validified. Is that a word? Validated. Yes, thanks. I don't have my Google to check and see.
Okay, we can validify things.
I'm going to validify this.
Validify.com.
I'm going to validify and solidify this. Even when Tempest, when they were having their moment in the workroom, and she was saying how she was, went to this boot camp to be straight again and blah, blah, blah. Violet was actually listening and paying attention and was very present in that moment. And that's why I can appreciate someone like that.
Yeah.
I felt she was genuine, and I felt, again, we talked about her youth because she is kind of young, and I think she's been sheltered a lot because of her character. But just her response to it was like super like, oh my God, you've been through so much. Like, calm down.
No, but I
got it. I felt she was genuine.
Yeah.
But that just lended to the idea that she's still a young queen. And
right.
So I give her credit.
And she's learning. She is trying. And I can appreciate that, as opposed to someone who I'm not going to say...
Older and jaded.
Yeah. Who was left at a bus stop at 3 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I was talking about Kennedy.
No, I was talking about her.
I like Tempest's story,
IJS,
though.
I'm just saying. That's not a thing. IJS is not a thing. It's not a thing.
It's to her, it's a thing.
I like Tempest's story. I feel that Tempest has this like rich history of whether or not she's my favorite drag queen, she's not, but I like her as a person, because it's like she has this rich history of overcoming so many things. It's like overcoming the whole religious thing, overcoming having to go to this camp, being overweight.
Overcoming marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage, no.
She was almost married, wasn't she?
I don't know. I thought she was married.
But she's married to. She's married to a man.
Yeah.
But I liked that we got this whole backstory, and then she you really feel like doing drag is her therapy, and it's like, bravo for you.
Well, I think it's therapy for all of them, just about. I like Trixie. I mean, since we're on the more you know segment of the show. We're going to go into special topics when I say this. With Trixie's story about how her stepfather called her Trixie, and that was, it was
part of the abuse
negative. Yeah, it was the negative, and then she took that name and switched it around. We talk about this a lot, how we take words that...
They're appropriate.
Yeah, and we take them and make it our own.
And where are you going with that, Kenny?
I'm just going to say to the viewers who are very passionate about me not saying certain things,
Which I will say, I watched some back seasons, and the tranny word was used a lot by many of the queens toward each other who were not transsexual. Just, that's part of the community. And I've seen multiple episodes with Ru, one of them being with Joan Rivers, where she's like, the word tranny doesn't bother me. And I can see how you guys were talking about she's still bitter about the whole fight with her and Logo and using that word.
Right.
But we'll get off it, but I understand
one of the major
appropriation.
questions there is like who gets to
say it and who doesn't.
Well, I mean,
If you can say it, I can say it.
Well, and I mean, since we're on the topic, the N-word, nigger, when it was used back in the day, it was used.
You can mark this as explicit, Steve.
No, but I mean, I just want to say.
Cry. Steve looks like he's gonna cry.
What the fuck? What?
No, but let me explain myself. When that word is said, it is, I think as a community, as Black community, collectively, not all of us, but collectively, we try to.
Collectively does mean all of you.
But not.
You're not speaking for everybody.
Exactly.
Yes.
What I mean by that is that, we took the ER off the N and put an A. Or we still use Negro, which between us, it means it's
The implication?
empowering, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Where it's not your word to say. I personally don't, if it's not said negatively, then I'm okay with it. If you're trying to make a point like we're doing now, I'm okay with it. But if it's like, if you're using it, for example, when Jasmine got kicked off, there were so many negative use of that word, which had nothing to do with like her race, her background had nothing to do with the fact that, she just didn't.
She had given up, and that has nothing to do with anything
so
else.
what I'm saying is like faggot. I
use it. Sorry.
I use it all the
Actually,
time
not
too. I use it a lot, but I know people that it bothers them. And I like to have discussions. I like to ask, why does that bother you? I've been called all kinds of things, and my mom used to always say, "Well, is that what you answer to?" Mm-hmm. Which is
you call me out my name.
Exactly, but I don't. If you don't answer to it, then it shouldn't bother you. Which is why I'm just, that's our special topic.
It's going to be an ongoing conversation. It's not going to end. Nobody has the right answer, but we're going to go back to Trixie.
Yeah.
Luckily, she turned that around.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that, and I'm so glad that came up in this episode because it is kind of relevant to, what we've been talking about as far as taking things that were negative and turning into positive, and she uses that as her drag name, which I think it's awesome. So,
I'm just happy she's back. I don't agree with you, I must say, Kenny, on the fact that how you were saying that you feel like if you go to the top 3, the queens have to have gone through certain competitions like Snatch Game and things like that. I actually love Trixie so much. I would want her to go to the top 3 because I think she should have been there for Snatch Game.
My only, and I don't disagree with you. I think you have a valid point, but I feel it's very, as we're talking about fair, I don't think it's fair for her to miss 3 weeks. Or 3 competitions.
And they said it was like a month of time, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, the way I think about it, I see it as 1 week they do 1 challenge in a week. Real time. In taping, runway, all that is done in a week. And then somebody goes home, and then the next week. It's done weekly. This is what I have in my head. So, in theory, in my head, I'm thinking she's been gone since episode 4. We're on episode 8. She's been gone for almost a month. I think that's unfair to, and I totally kind of back. I think Ginger mentioned that you've been gone all this time. Like I would have been pissed if
most of the queens agreed.
If Tempest would have been the winner, I would have been like, no, she only did 1 challenge. How are you gonna bring her back? And this might go to did Kennedy really choose the way it was chosen? Because I mean, she ended up with Jaden, and that didn't go too well. Well, how well did it go? I feel like with that pair joining to, am I allowed to say cock?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. Okay.
Said everything
well,
else.
when I said the N-word, I got
Steve
the
made
look.
sad face.
I mean, that's not a sad face. That's like, I'm gonna shoot you in the eyeball.
Did
face.
you crop that? Am I gonna see that in the video? Yeah, he did. Speaking about that.
Yes.
That
pairing.
Well, the way they conjoin. right off the bat when she said that, I figured that was a super bad choice, because if you are gonna end up in the bottom, you gotta think ahead of the game. Like, I'm gonna have to lip sync and dance with you attached to my ass.
Well, that was like both partners had that both groups had that problem where it was like they were both co-joined in such an awkward way that it's like you got to work something out. Oops, ow.
In both of their defenses, I actually thought that if they were gonna lip sync, they were gonna be solo. I thought they were gonna be solo, and I actually thought about your All Stars when you did All Stars here. It was the Save a Ho button. I actually thought about that.
The Save a Ho button.
But that didn't happen. But I actually thought they were gonna do. First of all, I didn't even think they were gonna lip sync. I thought the winner was gonna come back and everyone
Because as soon as they announced that they were actually gonna lip sync together, I thought if Jaden had thought about this ahead of time, I would have put a zipper in the front. And as soon as it was time, boom, you're out. Bye, girl. I mean, if Ginger could cut it, we're jumping ahead, but
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, she should have thought about that. I'm going to be with a partner. I possibly may have to lip sync with this person attached to me. But I probably don't want to have them behind me.
But I honestly, when you're working in that sort of thing, do you making this outfit? You have no idea what anybody else is doing around you.
Right.
So do you go in thinking, oh well? I mean, obviously,
I genuinely think of things backwards. I think of the end result I want, and I work it backwards.
That's fair. And I mean, you can say that for Roxy too.
But it also means, like, again, it depends if they actually do have a week of time, because you're saying a week, right?
Yeah, in my head.
So if they have that much time, there's enough time to modify. But if it's hyper compressed and they can't think and they're stressed out, I mean, that lends to it too.
I did think the dangerousness of the scissors aside, I did think that because
how do they have scissors?
Yes, I was like, where did she get that? Wouldn't they accidentally poke each other before that point?
No, anyway. I'm saying she probably asked one of the crew members, "Hey, let me get those
before they went back on." Yeah, right? She took them to the back room.
Because I've worked on film sets before, and I know people carry around belts, like work belts, or what do you call those? Tool belts.
Utility belts.
And I've had like all kinds of shit in my.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Kenny has all kinds of shit in his tool
We super jumped wrong. Sorry, who was next?
No, wait. I wanted to finish my point.
Okay, do it.
Yeah.
But I like that she had the idea to cut.
By the way, this was last week. Leather and Lace. That was last week.
I know.
I'm just pointing that out. Go ahead. Finish.
Finish your story. Tire tracks on her back.
So I like the idea that they had, when they split each other apart, then they had some sort of like choreographed dance routine going on.
Well, even in Tug, Ginger was like, "Girl, can you pick me up?" They kind of mapped out. They kind of mapped out what they were gonna do.
Smart.
But if you watch, I don't know. Yeah, we're totally jumping ahead.
On that specific topic. I just caught on to me. How the hell is she gonna jump in your arms if you're conjoined? So they had planned to cut from the get go.
Yeah.
So she probably grabbed the scissors in the back.
Yeah,
anyway.
and that's
not.
And on top of that. But on top of that, if you watch, whatever Ginger did, Sasha just mimicked.
Yeah.
And they played off of that. Yeah. So that's the end of the show.
Ginger's like, bye, girl.
Did we talk about I didn't like their outfits. Who's left? Oh, Violet and Max. I disagree with Michelle on this. I didn't think Max looked any different than what she's done in the competition.
Well, blonde, not gray.
Just platinum.
That's still close enough. Damn it.
That's cute. Whatever.
And I liked their costume. I didn't think anything was wrong with it.
I didn't think anything was wrong with it either. It's like, it's so weird. It's so hard to gauge Michelle because she was like, "You weren't funny. This wasn't funny." But it's like, then she praises some people for, "Oh, this is so like beautiful and whatever."
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, was it explicit that they had to be funny?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it's a bonus for the backstory, but it's like, she didn't point out that, "Oh, Violet and Max, your backstory isn't too strong. You've done the corset thing before." Mm-hmm. Like that, I would have understood. But the argument that they weren't funny, I was just like,
I thought that was Ross.
Get it.
Who?
Ross was the one who said that there wasn't much comedy to it. Michelle, like, she just made a comment about the wig and looking different.
Oh, maybe she
Ross
said it, but
I
know she said it about someone else.
She said as when they left the stage, she said that Trixie and Pearl, it was the funniest thing. And then when it got down to Kasha Davis and Katia, she was like, "Oh, they nailed it. They hit it out of the park." Okay, so which one are you, who were you in tune with more? Yeah. Like her comments lend itself to being that Kasha and Katia were the winner. But if you watch it again, it's like,
I felt they were. Did you guys think they were?
I thought so too.
I was okay with either one of them winning. I actually liked Trixie's play with the whole like retainer wire jaw thing. And
I like the
freckles.
fact that they were joined at the cooch.
It was
I thought it was
both
hilarious.
backstories were actually well thought out.
Yeah.
Because there are women like that. I see the women like that at the casinos all the time, smoking, just made up, like hair-sprayed hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baba.
He's making
Yes,
a wheel over there.
where's Pearl's website now that she gets this
Okay,
Squarespace
so
website?
here's the thing. She won a trip to New York. She's from New York, so they saved money on that. So I think this is why Trixie won. They came back because, hey, you're from New York. We'll just send you back on your own ticket.
You know how much it costs to get a Squarespace account?
$5?
It's like super cheap.
Yeah.
So basically, you've got an almost free website.
I think we've already established that they read the book, Leanne Rimes and Nelson Ellis. They want these
if they pay those people though, because I feel like it's a promotional thing.
I think they pay them. And what is he doing? He's not doing anything. Maybe he's trying to get on TV to get work. I don't know. So I mean, and I loved him on True Blood.
He was great on True Blood.
But yeah, it's like I think I even think they're sacrificing Rue's look to pay to like get these.
That's why she's only got the top up looks with the blurry blurry lighting.
I think this is the.
She's like, I'll pay you in my skirt.
This was the fourth week in a row I wasn't feeling her look.
Top up.
I didn't hate
up.
it. It was cute. I actually more interested in. I heard she said in an interview that when she comes out, she does that before she goes to sit down. She's literally out of drag from the waist down.
Interesting.
Because they film so long, she's like, I'm not doing that.
I can see that, and you can tell. And you can tell.
And
you can tell when they go backstage and they're doing Untucked. They're talking about how everything is chafing, and I'm just like, oh my god.
And they take off their shoes and everything.
Yeah.
It's got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and Logo's bonus clips, they showed Violet and Max getting undone from their corsets, and remember Pearl had that super cinched corset. She had blisters still from the week before.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Beauty knows no pain.
Yeah, beauty knows no pain knows no beauty.
Well, beauty, yeah.
Who's next?
Me. I think that's it. I think we hit everybody.
Yeah,
well, no.
Just kidding.
We didn't talk. Well, we talked about. We got everybody. Jasmine, Jean. Yeah, that was everybody.
I want to give a shout out to Jasmine from Tokyo who commented on our iTunes.
Konnichiwa.
If you comment on...
Was that
Did I do it wrong?
No.
You said hello.
Oh,
That is hello.
I said thank you.
Hola.
That's
wrong.
If you comment on our iTunes, you will get a shout out on our show. Only though if it's a positive comment.
Aw.
I'm not reading negative comments.
I read them. I love them.
I love.
No, I mean I
negative
read
comments.
them. I just don't announce them on air.
Questions from Untucked. God, that's that ESPN.
guys.
Do you or you just saw Untucked episode 8 on my sheet?
I was waiting.
Do you guys think that Michelle was because Kennedy was like, you bring up pageant all the time. What do you want me to do? Do you think it's fair for Michelle to continuously, or the judges, because maybe Ross is saying it too, or we just maybe don't see it. Do you think that's fair for them to harp on one queen for doing the same thing over and over and not others? Because I feel like in the way Untucked is now, if they're talking about it, it happens. If they're not talking about it, it doesn't happen. Yeah. That's what I tend to believe.
I mean, I think it's an interesting point. I think it's a valid point coming from her perspective, but I found it interesting. She's like, I give them all kinds of looks. I don't know what that burnt chicken was. So I don't really consider that a look.
Chicken fried pageant.
So otherwise, she's normally just that pretty girl, and I'm okay with that too. I just don't know if it's gonna knock it out of the ballpark to win a competition.
But I think it's a little unfair because last week I wasn't too thrilled about her look last week, but after seeing it over and over again, I'm like, okay.
I did like
maybe I saw it on two different like mediums and it didn't translate well for me. And I actually watched Untucked again on my computer screen, and then I was like, oh, okay. I could see what they were talking about. But it's the same. It's one of the same looks, and I think that.
So you agree with Michelle?
I kind of do, but what I kind of like on the fence. Like, what else is flip-flopping? What else is she's gonna do? You know,
no, I get where you're going. Then just keep doing what you're gonna do. And my thing is, then don't take constructive criticism. Stay true to who you are, and if you win, you win. If you don't, then don't be surprised.
Oh, that's good. Dropped the mic. Real quick predictions for next week.
Bottom two.
I think it's gonna be Trixie. And I think Miss Fame she's got to be in the bottom.
I think Miss Fame is
she
going
has been in the
home.
bottom 3 for the last 8 episodes. I
I
think.
think Miss Fame is going home.
I'll say bottom 2, Pearl and Fame, even though I love Pearl.
I love Pearl.
I don't think she's gonna go home.
I
didn't give
fun
shout outs
with
to you guys last week, so let's do it this week. Where can they find you?
At 123Jackie_B on Twitter. At 123JackieB, all one word, on Instagram.
Cameron.
At Tamakava777. Kennedy's bitter.
And you can find me at Kenny C. Harrison or Kenny Cherison on Twitter. And I love the fact that the song, the Lip Sync for Your Life,
Tiffany.
love that song. I'm glad it went with this episode.
I do too.
So that's our show for the evening. We'll see you next Tuesday.
I think we're alone now.
Get it? See you next Tuesday.
Be anyone
Cunt.
around.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Drag you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.